Hello, Ijao Martins, licensed marriage and family therapist, couple therapist. Let's continue our conversation from last week about discernment. When it's time to stay and work on your relationship, and when it's time to throw in the towels and leave. Again, let me light a candle for us, and I want to start our talk today with a little bit reading from one of my favorite children's books. It is called An Awesome Book of Love. This part says, and if you were the future and I was the past, if I was too slow and you were too fast, if you were a cloud and I was a ghost, if you were long distance and I was up close, I'd still love you, no matter what sense it would make. I'd love you for whenever, whatever it takes. I'd love you no matter, 'cause you are you and I'm me. That is the point I'm trying to make, because you are you and I am me. For me, this is about being in love and acknowledge each other's differences and to integrate the difference, to be connected when you're different. It takes a whole lot of work to get to that place in a relationship. And sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes you're really struggling in this period of time when you notice the differences are too huge for you to integrate. In the legal term, it is called irreconcilable differences. So I hear and I see all kind of excuses cited as this irreconcilable differences. What does it really look like? When do you know this is so fundamental that you cannot solve the issue, you cannot live with this perpetual conflicts and be in peace with each other's differences? People often ask me, do you ever feel sad and depressed when you're doing discernment counseling? When you see couples are coming to the end of the relationship and they're trying to figure their way out? The answer is no. I am a person who loves clarity. For me, once you figured out where you're going to, either you're working towards divorce, separating, or you're staying in to put in more energy to work on a relationship, either way is hard work. That you have a direction, you can both put your energy into that, and there's an outcome down the road. It's like one of my clients told me recently that the moment they decided to move on to either separation or working in couple therapy, it's like they entered the tunnel. So it's dark, but you can see there's the other end. You can see the light. And you know there's a light, there's the end of the tunnel you can go through, and you will be in a very different place down the road. But before you get there, when you're in the discerning process, you were kind of almost like running in circles. Someday one partner said, I want to stay. The other person said, I want to leave. Then next week, they reverse and they come back and forth. It's quite draining and exhausting. So the energy is everywhere. You cannot rein it and put it to one direction. So my experience is once you set to the place, you know where you're going, things just gets easier. It still takes a lot of effort. There's still a lot of pain and hurt and feelings, but it gets easier in a way that you know where you're going. And the two of you are heading to the same direction. So that comes into, I mentioned the leaning in and the leaning out. The partner that is have a tendency, inclination to leave the relationship or marriage is called the leaning out partner. And the partner really insists on staying in the relationship and working on it is the leaning in partner. So those two concepts I borrowed from Bill Doherty's discernment counseling. And I'm going to cite him underneath. You can read more about it or listen to him one. He has some great YouTube videos as well. So what are the examples of the leaning in partner have for staying and working on a relationship and really dedicated? Oftentimes I hear love. The leaning in partner tend to still very much in love with the other partner and who's very attached to the partner and attached to the family that they have built, including children, maybe the household or the lives they build together. They may have great fear about separating or being abandoned or being alone or financially not being supported. They could be some financially dependent on the other partner. They could have young children involved, and they're afraid of damaging their children emotionally if they were to separate or divorce. Those are some examples. Maybe you have your own. The examples are here from the leaning out partner. So they're really burned. They have tried their best in their own way that they know, and it hasn't been successful. So they're burned, they feel despair, they're so desperate and helpless and hopeless. They do not know what else they can do. They are so drained, they don't have any energy to put in work in a relationship anymore. It could be they have the fantasy or plan or belief that someone out there that could be easier for them or better fit for them as a partner. That I don't know. I can't comment on that. And also they fall out of love already. They don't feel the desire for their partner. It can also be there's an affair, either emotionally or physically. They are attracted to someone else, and so they already attached to them, and part of the energy that already left the relationship. It could also be they want a better, calmer environment for co-parenting their children together, and the escalation of their constant conflicts has put so much stress on their children, and then they worry that children will be negatively impacted in that living environment. So again, that's the leaning out partners, some of the perspectives and the reasons why they're leaning out. As you can see, there's actually no clear division between the two. You could be the leaning in partner and also relate and think about those factors or values from the leaning out partner. That is what makes someone that's so ambivalent in the situation of divorce or separation. They could be jumping between. One moment they think, well, I don't love you anymore, but then I'm still attached to you. It feels so comfortable. We've been together for a long time. And I want our children to not be harmed by our relationship distress. But it may be better that if we live in separate household, maybe that's a better situation, calmer for the children. Can you see that it's flipping back and forth? So what do you do in that situation? Yes, one person could have many parts in them, and that's the energy is pulling you everywhere when you are trying to make a decision and you're in so much pain. And there are also other factors in life that impact you: children, career, friendship, right? All those emotional turmoils. And when you're not connecting with each other, your nervous system is all rocked up, right? You're messed up, your nervous system. So you can't even have a clear head to think through these things. You're constantly hypervigilant and worried. So the method I use is I borrow system-centered therapy's functional subgrouping. I know it's a mouthful. I change the term to say it's joining because I like Dr. Dan Siegel's audiobook, The Neurobiology of We. It talks about co-regulation, and he uses joining a lot. From a sperm and an egg join each other and create this new being that has the DNAs from both mother and father. That's the deepest, that's the ultimate joining, right? So for you to get each other emotionally, spiritually, and cognitively, that is different forms of joining as well. It's connecting. It's not just reflecting back, but you really roll up your sleeve, you go in there and be with them, and not taking away by their emotions. It is hard, but it's achievable with the practices. Some of my couples, after 1 or 2 years of practicing joining, it's becoming an automatic default state for them when they have a difference. And it's really lovely to hear that they can use those techniques to help them resolve their differences. So I use joining with my couples in discernment. I ask whoever has the energy to start talking about their leaning in or leaning out part, and then the other party to join them in their part. And put aside the differences and join to really seek, do I have a part in me that want to lean in? Can I set my experience, share my experience with vulnerability and taking some risk to talk about what it's like for me to be concerned about the children's well-being? that part of me also want to stay for the benefit of the children, because nobody knows. The process of separation and divorce, you hear horror stories, but it's really up to you. It's in your hands. How you want to handle it. How do you want to step up, take risk, be mature, and be responsible and connecting in the emotions, in this turmoil of all the emotions? How can you be your best self as a parent, as a co-parent, as a partner to navigate through this messiness so everybody's involved have the best time to go through this transition? It could be transitioning to two different households. It could be transition to a much stronger attachment bond and safer and calmer home environment for you and your children. So, as I said, the benefits of sorting out your feelings and your thoughts about what are your goals are when you're in relationship right now. Do you want to stay and really work hard? And what's the time frame that you have for your work? Some people say I can do 6 months to a year, and after that I put in everything I could. If it's not manifesting, if it's not working, then I decide to leave. That is totally reasonable. So when things doesn't work, you can say to yourself, I tried my best. I gave my best. I don't have any regrets, right? So it also helps to create a calmer co-parenting relationship. If you have young children together, it's especially essential for you to work through some of your kinks in your relationship. Learn how to collaborate, learn how to join each other. That will be a very handy tool down the road for co-parenting. I use joining with my co-parenting clients as well, and it has a great benefit for them to negotiate, to solve the details for their parenting scheduling and activities together. It also promotes faster personal healing and growth, and it brings closure for each person. You can review the time you had before and what was working in your relationship and get in touch with the leaning in part, and then maybe explore in the next session how it has been so painful for the two of you to be in this stuck place that you really want to leave. It's so hard to stay and so uncomfortable. Two of you might have very similar experiences that you never shared and talked about before. This is a connecting point for you to learn how to do that. Even if you decide you're going to go your separate ways, you're practicing for your own self, not for the other person. You're practicing for your relationship and to decide together instead of a single-handedly what happens to your relationship, so you can smoothly transit to the next stage of your life. I hope this helps. I will put the name of the awesome book of love and Yvonne's SCT work in the link. And if you're interested, you can check them out. Until next time, bye-bye.